many McCollum stickers out there in the audience tonight. I got sidetracked. I came in here early, and then like every other candidate, you wind up getting telephone calls, your fundraising, you get your campaign, you get all those things you have to do. And I apologize for going back out there and getting stuck for a couple more minutes. First of all, what you're doing is very important. August 24th is very, very important. And I know you know that. And how you choose, how we choose who our next nominee is for governor is going to be critical not just for our party, but for the state. And so I want to talk to you very, very briefly about this. Some of you know me very well, others probably don't. Former Navy JAG, Congressman, Attorney General. And I think the question that has to be asked in this race is who's the best qualified candidate to be the next governor of Florida between Rick Scott and me? Who's the one who's really conservative and has the values and the policies and the ideas? And then I think you have to judge that on the basis of our records and character and leadership and honesty and integrity and the qualities that you need in leadership. Our state right now is a state that is under siege, if you will, from an economic standpoint. We are a state that's fourth largest in the union, but we right now have over 1 million of our people hurting, unemployed, often in positions where they're having to be foreclosed on their mortgages. It's not even, but it's very serious for us. And at the very best case, for the economy is stagnant. Now, part of this reason is because of what's going on in Washington. And we want to correct that. I don't know anyone in this room who isn't ready to go out and do that. We're going to take the White House back in 2012. We're going to take the Congress back as well. And the answer to that up there, if I were campaigning for Congress, which I'm not, but I did when I ran with Ronald Reagan in 1980, is to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. Cut the capital gains tax, not increase it. Reduce the regulatory burden on small businesses. Cut the corporate tax rate so we can get our exports out. And reduce and eliminate the unfunded mandates on small businesses, or I should say on communities, on cities and counties and state governments. Now they're not doing any of that. Instead you've got Obama who's more interested in peers in growing government than in growing private sector jobs. And he's more interested in redistributing the wealth than in growing it, because that's how you grow it, what I just told you. But in the meantime, we in Florida have to face how we're going to deal with it. And what we've got to do are some really the beginning of the next governor's office, tough choices in budgeting and things that are technical that we are going to talk about if you wish, but it's a big hole in the budget, bigger than we've had that I can never remember that's going to be there when I become governor. Maybe $6 or $8 billion out of a $65, $70 billion budget. We'll have to see what the revenue estimators say as we get on down the road. And we're not going to do that. We're not going to solve that problem by increasing taxes under McCollum administration. We're going to tighten this belt buckle up till it chokes practically, but we're going to reduce it, the size and scope of state government to make it work. We're going to have to set priorities. We're going to have to consolidate some agencies. We're going to have to work as we have to make all of this work out. But while we're doing that, we need to grow this state. We need to prepare to give the tools to the next governor so that I can go out as governor and bring jobs here. And I have a plan to do that, beside all of what I just told you. It's a plan that was vetted with Steve Forbes that he and I both are convinced will create 500,000 new jobs over the next 6 years. And there are no gimmicks in this. This is for real. This is vetted with a RIBI model, which is a model that is used for this sort of thing, and a standard operating government estimating type thing for jobs. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to reduce the corporate income tax from 5.5% to 4.5%. We need to give a 10-year exemption from the state corporate income tax for those businesses like high-tech, aerospace, biotech that we want to move here, that we want to attract to move their headquarters here, and move their production facilities here. We need to have the sales tax completely eliminated permanently on equipment for the high-tech, biotech, aerospace industry, and for building out the fiber optic to the rural areas. And we need to reduce the regulatory burden in our state. We're not California, we're not New York, we're not New Jersey, thank goodness. But we are one of the most overregulated states in the nation. So for both our small businesses here at home and for those we want to bring in with new jobs and come to this state, we need to do that. Now those alone will create the jobs according to the model principle. That and what I think is very important too, and that is having meaningful, significant lawsuit or litigation reform. That's not happened. It's happened in Texas and Mississippi and other places that are cleaning our clocks when it comes to attracting businesses that want to relocate to their states. And time after time, Florida's losing out to Texas, Mississippi, even Georgia and Alabama in this regard. And we have to change all of this that I just talked about. And then we have to dramatically improve our public education system. I know that Governor Bush set a good standard. We have improved some. We've done reading and math scores that are very competitive now in the 4th grade compared to where we were in national improvement. But we're not anywhere near where we need to be. We're down here about knee-high, and we should be way up here. And we got a lot more work to do at the elementary school, middle school level, high school, our state community colleges, and our universities. And I have a whole plan up on the web about how to do that. It starts with passing legislation that creates merit pay, that phases out teacher tenure, that creates more choice in schools, that provides for continuing education, especially in those areas like science, where many of our science teachers in middle and high school simply don't have much more knowledge than the kids they're teaching do. And if we're going to provide the workplace in the 24th century for these businesses we're attracting, we have to make these kinds of improvements. And there's a whole litany of things that are there. That's what the next governor needs to do. There are a lot of other issues we want to address. But if we do all of these things, then I believe we're going to have a state which, before we ever get there, we don't even have to accomplish all that. We just have the roadmap. And that's the really good news, the plan. And some of you have heard me talk about this before. It's why I call my campaign policy the roadmap for Florida's future. If we have this roadmap, if we generally show that we're going in the right direction, that we know where we're headed, we know how to remedy a lot of these problems, then they're going to come. The businesses are going to come. The capital's going to come. We need venture capital in our state like we don't have right now. We need a lot of investment, lots of things that are missing that we can do. We've depended too long on travel and tourism and on agriculture. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm in an agriculture community, and I'm going to be the first one to be out the door marketing agriculture. I grew up on a cattle ranch. I understand the strawberry industry here. I understand cattle. I understand citrus. I understand the importance of research. And as your next governor, I'm going to do everything I can to keep this industry strong and let it grow. And I'm going to do everything I can to fill every hotel room and every restaurant chair. Those two industries have to remain strong, but we need new jobs. We need to do a whole lot better job than we've been doing in creating those jobs if we're going to be able to go through a patch like we've been through now and not be a state that is suffering this high rate, comparatively speaking, of unemployment and stagnant economy as we have right now in our state. That's the key to this whole thing. And what's required is leadership. We are a state that should be there at the end of the day, where, and I believe we will be, where anybody with the initiative can create a small business and make a good living for their family. And we're a state where any child can get a 21st century education, and every good teacher is rewarded. And a state where when you worked all your life with the sweat of your brow and you put away some savings and hopefully accumulated property, you can enjoy it when you retire and pass hopefully most of that on to your children and grandchildren. And a state where the beaches and the rivers and the lakes and the streams that we all know as Florida are there for our children and grandchildren. That's the dream we all have. That's why I'm running. I'm running because Ingrid and I have been married 38 years. We have 3 sons, 2 grandsons, 1 more grandchild on the way that we think's a girl, which is about time in our family. And this election's about them and your children and your grandchildren and making Florida great again. And we can do that. We will do that. But I need to win this primary in order to be able to do that. Now, what's the difference between Rick Scott and Bill McCollum? It's like night and day. I have a record. It's a proven conservative record. You can see how I voted. You see how I stand. You know where I am. I was elected with Reagan. And Rick Scott has no record like that. He has what he tells you in his slick ads is over $40 million he spent on TV criticizing me, making statements that are not true, manipulating words that I have in order to create the image he wants both of me and of himself. When you peel back the onion, the only thing we really know about Rick Scott, other than what he tells us, is that he ran a company called Columbia HCA that in 1997 had 50 of its hospitals raided in a week by the FBI. He was fired very shortly after that by the board. At that point in time, they discovered there was so much Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE fraud, it was incredible. It was the most massive criminal fraud in U.S. history against the senior citizens of this country and against Medicare, robbing from the taxpayers. And eventually, Columbia HCA was fined $1.7 billion for that. Now, nobody like Rick Scott went to prison. Today, probably he would have under the Sarbanes-Oxley laws, but at that time, they didn't exist, so he didn't go to jail. So he's out campaigning today telling us that I'm a businessman and I'm going to run the state of Florida like a business. And he said, I will take responsibility for everything that happened. We had a great company, and it was all successful. You know what? After he left, it collapsed. It wound up having to go private. And anybody around that company knows how great distress they were left in, he did not manage that company well. He left it in shambles. And so I say a couple of things. One, I say that to Rick Scott, Rick, you say you took responsibility. The only thing you took was $300 million. Number two, I say, look, I prosecute Medicaid fraud, and as CEO, Rick, you committed Medicaid fraud. And number three, I would suggest to you that if you want a businessman running the state of Florida, the last person you want running it is somebody with that kind of track record. And yes, I'm very proud of my record of public service. There are big differences between us, huge differences. And last but not least, I'll set the record straight. I do support the Arizona immigration law. I fully support it. And now